Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, one of the lures that you never hear me talk about is square bills. And what those are is they're little, what we call crankbaits. Years ago we used to call them plugs. They're hard plastic, kind of fat little lures. They look like little fat fish. And they have the bill on the front of them is what makes them go where they go. It makes them wiggle in a certain way, and it determines how deep they'll go. And to use these square bills, it's important that you realize that they're designed to bounce off obstructions. Now, one of the reasons that I never used to use plugs much was that I was always getting snagged and losing them. They'd get hooked on obstructions in the bottom, but that's because their hooks tend to go into them first. The way these square bills are designed, the bill, which is absolutely squared off, will hit the rock or the log, and it'll bounce off it as you're bringing it. So you should be able to feel it doing that. If it's not doing that, it's not going to be effective. And when they bounce off, that really stimulates the fish to follow and strike. Seeing that thing bump into stuff really it does something to the fish. And I don't use them that much, but there's people that do, that catch a tremendous amount of fish on them. You know, the other lure like this that I haven't really talked about much is lipless crankbaits. And these are baits that don't have any lip at all. They have weight in them, they have BBs in them that make noise, and they go to the depth that you allow them to sink to. And what makes them so effective is they have quite a wiggle. Just you have to reel them fairly fast. And as you're bringing them in, they make a lot of rattle sound too. And I will tell you that I wanted to think about why this was important to tell you this. And I think about all the friends that I made years ago in Healing Waters. That's a national group for veterans that are trying to heal themselves from the atrocities that they went through. And Healing Waters is pretty much designed as a fly fishing organization. They teach people how to tie flies, and that's healing in itself. But a lot of these anglers weren't really fishing for the other species like bass and pike and walleyes. And I became friends with these people. And once they started to get into this other kind of fishing, they tended to get into kayak fishing, and their favorite lure, I remember, I made several friends in this group because I had done TV shows with them, and we got to know each other. And when they would go out, they would almost exclusively use one of the Strike King vibrating crankbaits, or lipless crankbaits, in red color. I always remember, no matter where they went, that's what they used. That's how they discovered new places to fish and how to catch the fish there. They can be extremely effective. And for people that aren't into finesse fishing, like is most of the stuff I talk about, where you have to use a very thoughtful, slow presentation of using soft plastics, you have to finesse them. You have to give them life of their own. With these lipless crankbaits and square bills, they have action built in. So as soon as you reel them, they're going to start looking like something the fish want. And this may be easier for a lot of like beginner fishermen or just weekend fishermen. So I guess my point is, you know, most all these lures will work one way or the other. And I think it's important you use what works the easiest for you. Another thing that's really easy to do would be to start using wacky worms. That's not the name of a specific lure. It's the name of a technique. And we've talked about this before. You just take any worm you want, any worm that any company makes, and you hook it through the middle, and you let both ends flop down, and you fish this almost like you would live bait. And honestly, if you weren't even a fisherman and went out there, somebody gave you a rod and reel with a wacky worm hooked on it, you couldn't help but catch fish. It's deadly. Now, some people might not enjoy this as much as something that's keeping them moving, But wacky worm is a terrific bait that I don't talk about that much because I don't use it. And the reason I don't is because that hook that goes through the middle, the hook point is exposed, and it's exposed not only to the fish's mouth, but also to every log and every rock around. And nobody likes to get snags. First of all, they cost money. When you snag a lure, it's going to cost you money. When you break it off, you've just lost that whole investment. And that's why I don't use some of these lures as much. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.